Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan. So we do start off the show with some good news, Ryan. The Raiders had the Pro Bowl was announced. Some Raiders made the playoffs. We had a snub on this Pro Bowl roster that I'm not happy about, but talk about that. But let's give props to Crosby, Adams, and Jacobs for making the Pro Bowl this year.
Definitely, and all three of them deserved it. All three of them are having outstanding years.
Yeah.
Adams doesn't have the volume of catches, but he has the touchdowns and the yards. Josh Jacobs is leading the league in receiving, and then Max Crosby's been a terror the entire season. I still think he should have one more sack. I'm not letting that fumble by Justin Herbert go. That was a sack. I don't care what the rule says. But no, they're having really good years. And then we predicted, I think a couple of weeks ago, we asked who are the Pro Bowlers, and I mentioned a fourth guy, in AJ Cole. I thought he should have been in this game too.
Yeah.
Just looking at his numbers, he's averaging 49.5 yards a punt. He's got a net of almost 44. In 50 punts, he's had one touchback, and he's had 23 inside the 20. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Townsend got in from the Chiefs. He's had 12 less punts. He's got a higher average, but all the secondary stuff as far as inside the 20 touchbacks, all that all goes to AJ Cole. But AJ Cole made it last year, and he sent a tweet out and told those three guys to enjoy the hot dogs because apparently they were good.
I mean, Carlson could have possibly as well too. I mean, Carlson could have been somebody who could have been a snub. I mean, I guess that one field goal he missed when he broke his streak cost him the Pro Bowl because I mean he was on that long streak of
I was on the Carlson train too. I still think Justin Tucker's the best kicker in the league.
Yeah,
if you just look at the raw numbers, they both have 29 makes. Carlson is 29 of 32. Tucker's 29 of 34. But when you dig deep, Tucker's attempted two that he's missed over 60. I'm not going to hold those against him. So they're basically both 29 of 32. The big difference is Carlson's made 9 of 11 from 50 plus. Tucker's still 7 of 9. So they're basically having the same year.
He's 7-9 from 50 or 60, you said?
Tucker is 7 of 9 from 50 plus. But Carlson's 9 of 11.
Yeah.
So Carlson's kicked 2 more. I'm not holding the 2 misses from 60 plus against Justin Tucker. So it's like boxing. You got to beat the champion. They have identical numbers. We went to a draw. It goes to the champion. But love Daniel Carlson. He's the second best kicker in the league.
He is pretty good. I did want to do a tweet of the week. So this is a tweet of the week. It was sent by _ Skip Carter, and he tweeted out during the game that Carr deserves better. And then you might not know Skip Carter, but you might know the person who responded to this. It was Damon Lillard of the Portland Trailblazers, who is a big Raider fan and wears Oakland on his sleeve. He tweeted back after the first tweet was Carr deserves better, and he said better than number 17, number 83, number 13, and number 28 ? And that blew up on Twitter from this week. So Raider fans, as usual, going at it as well. Can I say one thing real quick about the lady who was like berating that Patriot fan? Did you see that video?
I think, I saw it. I thought it went way too far as like the outtakes. Like, she didn't get physical with him. She got in his face. She said some stuff she probably shouldn't. But I didn't see there was no roughhouse, no physicality, nothing like that. You know, props to the Patriots fan for not saying anything. But we're acting like this lady like beat him up and threw him off the third deck of the stadium.
Yes.
Like, I've been to a lot of football games. People talk some stuff at football games.
And I would also say that being a person who's live on the East Coast and who has visited Yankee Stadium, who has visited Fenway Park, who's visited Boston Garden and Foxborough, I've been in situations where like, I'm glad I rolled deep that day. I'll just put it that
Uh,
way.
I've sat in the right field at Old Yankee Stadium, and there's stuff I heard I can't repeat on this podcast because I
You
don't
can't,
know.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, okay.
when I saw all the reaction, I'm like, I gotta watch this video. Like, what happened
Yeah,
here? And it's like
I thought like a
she
body
just got in
slammed.
his face a couple
Yeah,
times. Like, I'm
yeah,
like, okay, like, yeah, we don't condone that as Raiders fans. I'm a season ticket holder. I don't condone that kind of behavior.
yeah,
But
exactly.
we're acting like this lady like went
Yeah.
off the deep end, and she just got in his face a couple of times after he talked bad about Carr or the husband. Yeah, they should have sat down and left that guy alone. But like, let's not give this guy a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes. Well, everybody's doing that now.
Yeah.
He's in box seats at next Patriot game as far as that goes. So let's
The
go.
Raiders are giving him a bunch of stuff too. Did you see that? Though?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, let's go. Well, I mean, so now what you do now is you wear a jersey and you stage it, and then you
Yeah.
go and you go tweet at Sandra Douglas, the
Yeah.
PR of the president of the Raiders, and you get some free stuff.
I've been to some games in Oakland, and what happened in that video is not close to some things that I saw happen
Okay,
and
exactly.
LA at the
Yeah,
Coliseum.
seriously. So let's dive into that all 22, and then for the Raiders side on the first part of the show, let's go with the Waller seam first. The Waller seam you had in here.
Yeah, this is the touchdown to Darren Waller. This is on a 2nd and 20 play from the 25. And you heard Waller mention that they played man. They played. So if you look at this set, it's a 3-by-1. Waller's in the slot. The Patriots are playing man. They're in nickel defense here. They got 2 linebackers, 2 safeties, 3 corners. And he's man up on the safety here. The backside safety is actually not in the middle of the field. He's on the side of the hash where Adams is. So he's shading and works towards Adams. So you have one-on-one across the top with Hollins, Renfrow on the return route, and then Waller down the seam. This is an easy pitch and catch. Waller beats the safety down the seam. It's interesting. They're playing zone to this backside where you have Adams and Jacobs with multiple players because you see, and then they have 2 middle of the field players here with the linebackers. They don't get any depth here at all. So it looked like the Patriots on this play just want to man up to the passing strength and then take away any crossing routes, and they want to play zone to the weak side of this. And thankfully, Carr made a great throw. The O-line held up. Waller wins that easily. So that's what happens when you have Waller on the field with Adams.
Yeah,
If that
exactly.
safety is going to creep over Waller, you're not going to cover Waller with a safety or linebacker. So
Yeah.
it was good to see him get involved in that play and score a touchdown.
Yeah, and then shout out to Matt Collins who knew it was a touchdown.
When I was watching the all 22, his hand goes up. Like,
that is hilarious.
As soon as Carlos,
he knew.
He knew.
That was a good one.
Someone asked me to put together a video of just Matt Collins celebrating other people's touchdowns.
Yeah,
he just wants to see that.
He seems like a good teammate. I'll definitely give him that. Let's stay with Waller here because we're kind of proponents of Waller not moving on and staying with the Raiders because he just is a dynamic piece to what they want to do. They have the 4 verts here with what we got Adams and Renfrow on top.
Yeah, this is the last drive. This is the 20-yard. So the Patriots switched it up. They switched to cover 2 on this, which they didn't do a lot during the game. They did it a couple times on that last drive. But again, Waller's in the slot. You have Hollins down at the bottom, Adams at the top with Renfrow. So 2-by-2. This is pretty easy versus cover 2. If you see the middle linebacker, he's going to open up to the side where Adams and Renfrow are. So this is an easy throw. Once Waller clears the linebackers, it's actually a safety. It's Duggar there. Once he clears those second-level defenders, work towards the hash, easy pitch and catch. Carr makes a good throw here because Colton Miller gets knocked down right in front of him, so he can't step into this. He kind of just has to use his upper body and spin that ball out of there, and he does. He throws a good ball right on the hash. Darren Waller's there, 20 yards. So that you need that big body that can win on the other side away from Adams, and that's what Waller can do. Hollins doesn't do it on a consistent basis. Renfrow's not going to really do that. So these are the plays Waller needs to make in this offense. They're going to be there, and to their credit, Renfrow and Waller didn't play a ton in this game, which we talked about last week, coming off of all those missed practices and all that time. We didn't expect them to be in more than some red zone, some third down, some specialty packages, and that's about what they played.
So on the defensive side, you mentioned they dropped the cover 2. What's the biggest key to let you know that when you're watching this for like the first time that it's cover 2?
I just got rid of the video, but let me get back to it.
Oh,
So
sorry.
this is the four verb. That's all right. I got it right here. So basically, you want to see the safeties. Immediately, you have the two high safeties that are just outside the hash. So they're going to work the deep hash. So if they don't rotate out of that, it's either cover two or cover four.
Okay.
But then when you watch the underneath defenders, they basically play five across. So what Carr is looking for here is where's the leverage on the defender. So you see the defender at the bottom, he's got inside leverage. This defender in the slot, inside leverage. Duggar's gonna have inside leverage. So they're trying to force those guys out away from the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pretty easy read, just based on you see Renfrow and Waller both have to work outside the coverage there.
Yeah.
And then you just watch the middle linebacker. He's going to open up towards the top of the screen to Adam's side, and then he just drifts back. So this is cover two all the way.
Cool. All right. And then we had a Raider corner who had a pretty good game, and Amik Robinson here.
Yeah, so Meek Robertson, once he gets disrespected, he has a good game. So I
Yes,
think
he
we were
does.
sending after that penalty, we were texting like, God, Meek, what are you doing? Like, get him out of here. And then
Because he's better than that, right?
So he must have saw the text exchange, because
Yeah.
since then, like, he played dynamite in this game.
Yeah.
This is actually a good rep. They're in cover three here. This is really good. So he's up showing press, then he's gonna bail. And he opens up with his hips to the field. So he's got back to the sideline. He never takes his eyes off the quarterback. He does let the receiver here stack him a little bit, but he's able to make a play on the ball in the air and knock this away and high point it. And this is a pretty big play, because I think this happened mid to late third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So this was as the game was tightening up there in the second half when the Raiders needed to make a play. This is a great play, because he's in one-on-one coverage, and for a guy that's 5'8", maybe 5'9", to be able to get up in the air, and this is what he's going to have to do, because he has to get up and challenge at the catch point, because he doesn't have the length or the size to really not do that. But great rep from Amik Robertson. He had another one on the goal line that I posted where he basically got inside a slant. He's going to have to be careful, because he jumped another one later in the game on the ball that Chandler Jones knocked down. But if you run the sluggo on him and he bites on that, it's a touchdown over the top. And I think that may have happened on the penalty where he got a hold. It was a double move. So he's jumping routes, which is stuff we don't really see from Raiders defensive backs. It's going to work out if you can get your hands and get an interception, but he's very susceptible to double moves right
now. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Good job there. We watched the game back a bunch of times. And we also all 22. Their Raiders go into the half feeling good. Yeah, they're gonna win the middle eight. They're sitting there feeling good. They're up 17. They got a touchdown from Carr to Matt Collins. What is the biggest? A lot of questions I get is like, what leads to the second half woes this time around, as far as it goes. I think the Patriots just got a little more aggressive with that defensive line. They got a lot of pressure on Carr in the second half. That's part of it.
Yeah, what changed is they started challenging the A and the B gaps. They were bringing blitzes, they were running stunts, and then when you had Meredith, who was a practice squad guy, then you had Grasso, and then James, like, they just weren't picking those up. And the Raiders weren't down in distance due to penalties and just falling behind the sticks on first down, where they were in second and long or 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 after a penalty. And what you saw kind of in the second half is you didn't really see Waller and Renfrow out there. It was the guys that have been out there that are in condition, because Josh McDaniels wanted to run the ball. So let's put Hollins out there. Let's put Moreau out there. They used Cole quite a bit, and they basically, they weren't running the ball nearly as effectively because they couldn't run between the tackles, and that's where Jacobs has run this year.
Yeah.
So they weren't really trying to get outside. They were just trying to pound it between the tackles, and then when they don't convert on third down, they can't run plays. So they got into another situation where there was some third and longs just due to some penalties, and then not getting yardage on first and second down like they have been doing. They didn't convert some of the third and shorts they got into, but mostly it was just the interior pressure that was getting to them, and it was and there was a lot of sim pressure. So they were bringing four. They just weren't bringing the 4 down linemen. They would bring a corner, they would bring a linebacker, they drop a guy out, and then the weird thing about this game plan from McDaniels is they tried to take a lot of deep shots. It was a lot of long developing, a lot of play action. We're going down the field, and the line wasn't holding up, and they never adjusted. They never went to the quick game. Like I just watched Trevor Lawrence throw the ball all night in bad conditions and was getting the ball out of his hands in 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what the Raiders need to do when they can't move the ball. Go to the quick game. If you can't protect, throw those quick routes to Renfrow, who can win quickly. Get it to Adams. And the weird thing is, going back and watching the all 22, they didn't really double Adams that much in this game. They did a couple of times in the red zone. But for the most part, they weren't double teaming Adams a ton. It was Adams ran the most go routes I've seen him run. And that may have just been a side adjustment when they're in press coverage, because they put Marcus Williams up there on him, or Marcus Jones, the rookie. But it seemed like every time there was a third down or they needed a big play, Adams was just running the go route. So I don't know if that was in the game plan, but they tried to take shots, but then Carr didn't get a lot of time in the second half. And then again, like, if you can't convert third downs, it doesn't matter what you're doing on first or second down. You're going to punt 3 and out. So
exactly.
That's basically what happened to me. I didn't see anything
amazing.
Yeah, there was nothing in there. I'm like, well, if the offensive line holds up, there was plays to be made at times. And then again, I didn't see a lot of opportunity for Carr to get the ball to his hands quickly. And then when you're not holding up, you can't do anything. And then the other interesting thing is, whenever Carr got outside the pocket, like, no one was ever really working back to him on the all 22. So it's like these guys are running their routes, but no one knows when Carr leaves the pocket, and they're not really adjusting and giving him a lot of opportunities. I know we talk about him making plays outside the pocket. There really wasn't opportunities in this game because no one really broke back to him when they needed to.
Okay. So that could have been, I mean, so him throwing those balls away makes sense because there's nobody to throw to.
Everyone's running routes 15, 20 yards downfield. Everything was deep this week.
Yeah. I forgot who I was watching. I was watching one of these guys on YouTube who does all 22, and he was talking about how trying to break down the Raider offense. He actually broke down Devontae Adams and talking about how McDaniels is kind of using him the same way the Patriots used Randy Moss, as like kind of a huge deep threat down the field instead of like a volume catcher on the inside. It just seems like, I mean, when I watched that, I was like, that's
what they're doing.
That's what they're doing, or most part, right? I mean, that he's not getting. I mean, even though the numbers show that if he gets the ball a lot, the Raiders usually win. They're kind of banking on these deep shots down the field, to kind of once they get into like maybe like the 6 for the in between the 40s to kind of like get a big play touchdown or set them up for stuff in the red zone.
Yeah, you didn't see Adams go inside or run those juke routes, whip routes, or turn routes, quick slants. Like, he didn't really do that this week. And there was opportunities there on those deep plays. So as much as we want to say like McDaniels didn't adjust and do that, Hollins was open deep twice.
Yeah, he was.
There was opportunities for touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
The first one, Carr put it out there, and Hollins made a great effort. He dove for it. It went off the end of his hands. I know Raider fans are going to scream drop, but when I got a guy 6'4" running 55 yards down the field, and he's laying out and giving everything he has, and it goes off his fingernail, that's not a drop. Sorry, Raider Nation. They just missed it. It was just a hair too far out in front of him.
And he had inside position, so that ball is just anywhere near him. He could get the catch.
The second one I thought was more egregious because that was when he was running kind of like a post. He was going across the field. There was no one over there except for the referee, and Carr let it behind him and a little too far. So he kind of adjusted and tried to catch it over his head. And that one he could have made a plan. That's an incredible catch and an adjustment no matter who it is. So I'm not going to hold that against Matt Collins. If Carr puts that ball out in front of him to the other hash, it's a touchdown. They just missed a couple of opportunities on some deep balls. That they just missed the one to Adams early in the game too.
Is the post like a pass that he struggles with? Because I remember, do you remember when Gruden was the coach? And I remember Vic Tafer was talking about in practice, like they were trying to hit post routes, and and Carr was struggling to hit that one. Is that just one of those routes that he kind of struggles with, or you think that's just like a one-time thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something he struggles with more so than anyone else in the league. Like, I don't watch every post route that every quarterback throws. There have been opportunities this year where he has missed some of those. But at the same time, in McDaniels' offense, sometimes based on where the safeties are, they flatten it out instead of running it like a true post. So, like, there's so many adjustments down the field. It's hard to know, like, what the adjustment was on each route.
Yeah.
But I can look at the film and say if this ball gets out in front of him and leads him to where the referee is at the other hash, because there's no one on that side of the field, and he let it behind him and up the field. So you saw him trying to run across, and then he turned and had to like straighten out and then tried to go over over his shoulder. But it's just I thought the best throw he had all day was the Cole on the touchdown. So we got to tip our cap to Carr. He was at 4th and 10. Now he missed some throws earlier in that drive, but
Yeah.
the one to Renfrow that he was running open in the back and missed that. But 4th and 10, he came through. He hit Hollins. He hits the ball, another one to Hollins. He gets the ball to Waller, and he gets it down the sideline with basically the only where he could throw that ball to Cole. And there was a point in this game where it was basically they were playing one-on-one against Cole and Hollins a lot, especially when Waller and Renfrow weren't out there, and he had to go to those guys. And luckily they made some plays. This offense can't go 5 or 6 drives going 3 and out and pick 6. Like that just can't happen. So they're going to have to figure that out, whether that's going to like the quit game when things start slowing down, maybe go no huddle. They have to do something differently. They can't just line up and run the ball on 1st down or 2nd and 9 and then try to get into 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6. We'll talk about the Steelers game this week. The Steelers' problem is their secondary is not very good, but the wind conditions and the weather. If this turns into a Josh Jacobs 30 to 35 carry game, and the Raiders can't throw the ball, it's not going to be a pretty game.
Yeah. Speaking on the defensive side of the ball, we talked about like that on our text thread, the kind of puzzling cornerback rotation. Like it just seems like it's just like no rhythm, no rhyme or reason to it to a certain degree. What's going on there? I think. I mean, some of these. Okay, I think you can kind of pick out who would match up well against the Patriot wide receivers, and then you take it from there. But it just seems like people are playing, and like we don't like. There's no. It's kind of like they're just kind of thrown out there. I'm sure there's more scientific stuff that they go through to make sure they put people out there like Sidney Jones, stuff like that. But I'm just kind of. What are your thoughts about that?
I wish I knew the answer because we talked about Amik Robertson disappearing a couple weeks ago. He played like 4 snaps, and like he wasn't on the injury report. This week he didn't play in the first quarter. Like he didn't play a single snap in the first quarter, and then right at the 2-minute, they come back from commercial. First play of the second quarter, he's out there, and he played the whole rest of the game. So I don't know what's going on with Amik. If there's something off the field, if there is a small injury, and they just basically had to throw him out there this week because they didn't have anyone else. But Tyler Hall's getting a lot of run.
He got signed, right?
Yeah, and the issue they have is like they had Rock Yassin forever, no Nate Hobbs. The minute Nate Hobbs come back, now Yassin's hurt, so they haven't had both of them together. Sam Webb didn't play at all in this game, I don't think. Like he got a couple of snaps late, but like we didn't see Sam Webb after he played a ton of snaps for a couple of weeks. So they're basically rotating in Jones, Robertson, Webb. Tyler Hall's getting quite a bit of snaps in the slot. When they want to go big nickel, it's Teamer. When they play regular nickel, it's Hall. So I think they're trying to mix and match and figure out who can play man because they're playing a ton of man right now. They're not playing a lot of zone. And just get a feel for going into next year. I know we don't want to talk about next year, but the Raiders front office has had an eye on next year since
they got here.
March. Since March. Since they said, hey, let's trade for Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones. And then they immediately went to what are we going to do in 2023? Because it's pretty obvious with how they've handled this roster. But I think that's what they're doing in the defensive backfield. They're trying to figure out which one of these guys can stay. And I will give Trayvon Merrick credit. I know a lot of people think that he's a bust and he sucks because he's not having a good year.
I was just going
to ever since Abram left and he's played strong safety where he has to play down in the box and play a lot more man. I think he's played really well. Now, he doesn't have the interceptions that you want to see out of a playmaking safety, but for what the role they're asking him to play in this defense, I think he's played pretty well for the last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, and I would totally agree. My very next thing was we talk about what's going wrong with the Raider defense, but what's going right with it is Harmon and Morig, doing their thing back there. And I think him playing close. I think he's more, he can be more disciplined than Abram. He doesn't have those fool's eyes where if you put anything in front of you, put like, somebody said that Abram is like a cat with laser pointer sometimes. It was a good line.
That's exactly what he is.
That's exactly what he is. So
on catnip.
On catnip, yeah. So we don't want to see that. The Raiders signed DJ Turner as well. They signed him back to the team
practice
as well.
Squad.
Practice squad.
I will add on Merrick.
Yeah.
In Merrick's defense, if Patrick Graham comes back, I'm 99.9% sure you can just put Merrick in as the starting strong safety in Penn. Like I think he's a starter.
Yeah, he's
with how he's played. So That gives you one less position you have to fill. I don't think we're going to see him playing free safety. I think he fits this defense and this scheme.
Yeah,
is that strong safety.
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, there are holes in the defense. The defense has been a disappointment. This would be like the third week in a row where they did tell somebody on the 20 on the defensive side. There's been pick sixes involved to get teams to get teams over. They're not playing like the way we want the Raiders to play. Not playing the way they play against the Chargers. That's basically the way we want the Raiders to play defense. I like way they play against the Chargers, and they're struggling with that. We talked about Nate Hobbs again during the game too as well, and we do kind of throwing out there that maybe cornerback isn't the home for him. Maybe he would be, the way he tackles and the way he plays, maybe safety would be a better spot for Nate Hobbs.
Yeah. To me, the more I see him outside, and granted he's coming off an injury, the more you see why he went in the 5th round. I love Nate Hobbs as an elite tackler. I don't know, like, if Rocky Sin doesn't come back, and Rocky Sin's a number 2 corner, like, Nate Hobbs to me is not going to be a number 1 corner. He's a really good slot, and he could be a really good safety. Like, if you could figure out how to get a couple corners on this team and put Nate Hobbs at free safety or slot, and then you have Merrick playing the strong safety, I think that's a pretty good duo.
Yeah.
Especially for what Patrick Graham's going to ask them to do. Now, the problem is you're going to have to go out and find at least 2 corners that can be starters if you want to go that route. But I don't know, like, the 2-point conversion, bad eyes by Nate Hobbs. Like, he literally gets to the break and he just turns and stares at the quarterback. Mac Hobbs throws it in the corner. Easy. And you see him getting beat a lot with crossing routes. Like, he just doesn't have the speed to stay with these wide receivers that run across the field. Now, if he can get physical with them and he doesn't have to do that, he's fine. But, like, I think he's a much better player if you put him in the slot and potentially free safety.
Yeah. I mean, when you watch the Raider defense, how was that blitz percentage? Like, were they just non-existent?
It wasn't a lot against Mac Jones, and they didn't need to, because Mac Jones couldn't hit the side of a barn in this game. He went 13-31.
He helped their Raiders. He helped their pass defensive stats. I'll tell you that.
There was guys running wide open in the secondary, and Mac, he just didn't see him or just missed them. Yeah. There was another standout on film though. This Kyle Pecco, this defensive tackle that they just promoted. Like, that dude was holding up against double teams. He was shedding double teams, making tackles. He was shooting across the face of the guard or the center, getting into the opposite gap, then getting back and making tackles. Like, he had 3 run stops where I'm like, man, who's this guy? Like, to see a guy built that low to the ground that can move in a small area quickly. Now, I don't think he's ever going to have any pass rush, but it's just like a run stuffer. Like, he's obviously taken Neil Farrell's job. Like, he's playing over Neil Farrell. Neil Farrell can't even get active. Which is a concern, because we want to talk about how much we love this front office and how we have all these draft picks and how Ziegler's going to fix it. Well, none of his guys are getting on the field, so let's not lose sight of that. Yeah. But let's just hope that Parham and some of these other guys are healthy for this next week.
Yeah, sure. True. All right, cool.